Alright, video started. Anyway, alright, drawing video and other things. So, yeah, I guess I'll be categorizing. This is something, put everything in categories now. So it's basically going to be a discussion of negative utilitarianism and that stupid anti-natalism and why we need better words to describe what things are. So anyway, I'm going to just do this painting with just junk paint and a stick, metal thing. Just because I've never done it this way, so I figure I'll try doing a portrait this way. And I'll pick myself just to make things, whatever. And a dirty piece of paper. Yeah. So, I don't know what this will be, but whatever. So it begins. I'm going to try to keep noises like that down to a minimum. Try anyway. Alright, conference report. Made one of his driving videos. And, yeah, it was, it's a good video. I'm getting right to the point, aren't I? Anyway, and also the spook guy made a video saying shit. I didn't really care for his video much. Because again, he's just sort of implied like that there's some sort of equality in belief between people who might argue that there's an ethical obligation to be a vegetarian. Versus, just in terms of not eating or causing suffering to animals, and then that group of people who apparently don't eat meat for like a religious reason, who think plants feel or think plants are holy or spiritual or whatever the bullshit is. So it's not really about suffering, or if it's about suffering, it's about some sort of weird notion that suffering isn't something possessed by a brain, that somehow suffering, or the capacity to suffer, is something that, isn't a brain function, is some other kind of event. I personally find that really annoying. To mix those two categories of people, because it's almost insulting to the one to even be called both, for them both to be called vegetarians. Somebody's getting insulted because they're very different philosophies. I mean, one's just a glorification of the living beast, and one of them's a recognition that we're trapped in a moral or ethical dilemma created by a pretty stupid natural system that you wouldn't do on purpose. If it was yours to invent, you wouldn't invent a system that allowed organisms to feed on each other. I mean, there's no good to be done. There's nothing worthwhile comes of that. It's just nasty. So, this isn't working out too well. We'll see where it goes. So anyway, conference report did mention the first ouch thing in the Do Not God video. I guess that was the first one on that subject, but I've talked about it before. And what came first, and it is a little complicated about what came first, the feeling or the thought, because for the feeling to have any use, there has to be a brain capable of reacting to it, and that's sort of the trick of this thing. It's just another one of those things where you say, well, what kind of unlikely event, because it's sort of like it had to happen. Like I said, for it to have any use, they had to happen. The events had to coincide with each other, where you had a physical capacity to create a sensation and a physical capacity to have a brain that could do something with it. That could react to it. There wouldn't be much point in having sensation without a capacity to react to it. I mean, it's just innately something that screams react. It doesn't serve any other purpose. There needs to be a consciousness, so to speak, or an intelligence that can make something of it, that can move or do something. So, yeah, that's where it gets a little bit complicated. But yeah, definitely the idea that that's how it has to be constructed, though, is that you have this reflexive organism, I guess, is the easiest way to just simplify it. If you have an organism that has reflexes, and you just layer the reflexes, so they get, you have reflexes reacting to the condition of other reflexes. So triggers that are reacting to triggers. And that's sort of how you could look at the levels of brain activity. Is there's that rudimentary level that's creating a circumstance, a condition, and then there's this higher level that reacts to that condition by creating another condition. And ultimately the condition will be movement, action of some kind. This is just terrible. Anyway, yeah, I shouldn't try doing something new at the same time I'm making a video. That's a little bit, it's probably asking a little too much from my meager brain resources. Oh, a lovely green color. Yeah, find a purpose for a gray-green. What the hell? Throw some more of that in here. Where was I? Okay. Sentience. Yeah, so what came first, feelings or thoughts? It sort of really doesn't matter, but I mean, just as long as you understand that the only use feelings have is you got to have a thinking brain to react to the feelings. So that's really the defining factor, is a brain, an intelligence capable of reacting, ultimately. That's got to be there somewhere in the mix. Fuck that. Yeah, well, fuck that. That'd be much better. Yeah, I thought I'd be able to do this better. I'm not in a very good mood. That's part of my problem. I haven't been in a good mood in, I don't know, a month, 2, 3, 5, 10. So anyway, yeah, what do I want to really get to? I mean, the bottom line is that, yeah, when you philosophically take this thing apart, there's just nothing here to be pleased with. You know, we're just living for these little satisfactions, and the whole system is sort of dependent on deprivations being whatever, completed or removed as a problem, or let's see what's a better way to put it. And so that sort of relates to what the conference report was talking about, in the sense that you know, you can't add these positives and these negatives directly. Like, you can't just say, well, here, I'll do one part of his video was about this math problem. And he used an analogy of, you know, making torturing somebody as, you know, 1,000,000, and then some sort of inconvenience pain as being a 1. Like, these would be the very smallest pain versus the worst pain. So if you had these two on a scale, and he just made he arbitrarily picked the number, you know, the worst pain would be 1,000,000, the least pain would be a 1. And so then you'd need 1,000,000 people in the 1 state to equal, or to create a justification for imposing suffering, torture. If you could end that 1,000,000 people with a minor pain, that would be the number. Well, the point is that that math just doesn't work. It's not that the math doesn't work. It's that the numbers are too arbitrary. Obviously, if you made the worst pain a 10, you know, and the least pain a 1, then you'd have only 10 people with the least pain would equal the worst pain. And that wouldn't make any sense at all, obviously. I mean, obviously 10 people with a stubbed toe would not equal, you know, one person having horrible chemotherapy and evil, nasty stuff happening to them. So, it's kind of arbitrary. But if you make the least pain 1 and the worst pain a trillion, well then, you know, you're talking about, if you said a trillion people with a stubbed toe being cured, well, maybe that would make sense then, if you tortured one person to prevent a trillion people from suffering. You know, but just, you could make it a Googleplex. You can make it, you could do this math. It's all, it kind of depends on what you make the 1. You know, how wide you make the scale, how expansive you make the scale. And I don't even see the point in bothering, because I don't think that's really the point of it. You know, ultimately, you know, measuring negatives against negatives, the point is does life have any true positives? I mean, is there a real positive somewhere in this mix that makes any of it make any sense? And that's where I think, you know, there needs to be more philosophical attention. Is, you know, these people who are claiming that life's accomplishing something have to come up with a better description of what that accomplishment might be. Because I don't see it, personally. God, this is just hideous. Who knows what it'll turn into. So far, it's a mess. This isn't the best tool, I must concede. I'm not a great knife painter yet. But anything can be fixed. So that's what we'll do, we'll fix it. Alright, so what else? Vegetarianism, yeah, it's a negative. I mean, you know, we separate from, well, the idea that you got to be an atheist and that the popular position always gets the default is, I guess, just sort of an annoying fact of life with human beings. But it would be nice if there was more, if the language was more explicit and there was a difference made between a person who's a vegetarian for ethical reasons and a person who's a vegetarian for health reasons or some other bullshit, because they are out there, are religious reasons, because it is a whole different kind of activity depending on your reasons for doing it. So let's see, you made another point about how if you were in a war, you might want an army of fanatic religious versus committed utilitarians. And I don't know if I really buy that one either. Just because so many religious people, you know, I mean, it's kind of a cliche joke. It's like the, you know, the Catholic sinning. There's obviously very thin belief, very little faith in their religion, because they are quite capable of compromising every bit of it, you know, committing horrendous sins against any belief in a God. You know, sure, things that would certainly you'd get sent to hell for by their own religion, and they're capable of committing those sins. So it does seem like that faith is pretty thin. It's not very strong. And so maybe they would actually not be very committed fighters when push came to shove. They would, you know, I mean, when the rubber hit the road kind of thing or whatever, because their faith is shallow. And so I guess as long as no one's looking, they probably would run the other way, weasel out, you know. But maybe as to save face. You know, when people are looking, when they think God's looking, and God is just the social um, parent, so to speak. Yeah, they're you know they're going to break the rules. So yeah, maybe I want people who are going to lose self-respect in a war, not people who are going to you know, whose only cause or only purpose, only willingness to be true to the cause is built out of the perception that they, you know, they might be just socially embarrassed, not personally. I mean, they're not going to hate themselves. They're just looking to see if they can find a way to. I'll just go back to the nobody's looking thing. Who are only there because people are looking, and as soon as people aren't looking, they will, you know, rob the store blind. Where somebody who's committed for a reason that has to do with their own personal character, they can't preserve their personal character, their personal self-respect, and compromise the cause. Yeah, I think those people might be better in a war or in a battle. So, just a different interpretation. Yeah, that wasn't really on subject. Well, it sort of is. It's just this whole philosophy thing and confidence in philosophy. I guess that's sort of what I didn't. I mean, the Spook Spot video was sort of incoherent. I mean, it didn't really say anything, so I can't really make anything out of it. But it was just this implication that there's all kinds of different ways of looking at something, or I mean, it was almost this implication again of the fact that there's not some sort of truth that can be demonstrated here, and that everybody can just make up their own little pile of bullshit. And I mean, he didn't say any of that directly, but just had that smell to it. You know, again, of another one of these people who just arguing that you know, this moral relativism crap. You know, and that you can't make any definitions or you can't do any describing that has any empirical or truth value. And I think that's just a pile of crap. There's logic here, and there has to be logical consistency. And when he was sort of implying an equal, as if these religious nuts who might be vegetarian were, you know, who are worried about trees feeling. I mean, it's just illogical. It's logical nonsense, and you can't put that in the same category because it isn't credible. It's incredible. It's nonsense. It's worthy of ridicule, not respect, and it certainly isn't. It certainly doesn't have any of the character of some sort of you know, the theory of evolution or some sort of belief in or confidence in the non-existence of deities, you know, especially the wackier ones, you know, believed in by some people. And so there is no equality there. I mean, somebody who's a vegetarian because of ethical reasons is not worthy of the same mocking or ridicule that somebody who's a vegetarian because they're worried about the future of they're worried about the intentions of a tree, because the tree intends to do something, and we're not allowed to disrupt what the tree is up to, kind of bullshit. That's just not a fair comparison. These are two different kinds of philosophy, and they have a different level of credibility, and it's just a cheap maneuver to imply any equality between those belief systems. And that seems like what he was doing, but again, his video was not very coherent, so you can't even say whether that's what he was saying or not. It was just a shitty video, sorry. It sucked. It really was irritating to watch. It said nothing directly. It said nothing explicitly. Just talked like he was on some sort of, you know, just hippie bullshit. You know, you know, just didn't have any use. What's the point of having conversation in some sort of, yo, dude, it's like banana peels and things, and like cool, and like whatever, like, man, like, you like, man, cool, like, man, cool, like, and I just, fuck you. I mean, don't waste my time. So anyway, where was I now? Where was I now? Where am I now? Yeah, I'm not going anywhere here. This is really pretty strange looking. That's okay. I fix it, or not. This really isn't my style. But I've never done this stick thing. I always wanted to do like some sort of painting with, you know, one of these different techniques that I hadn't tried before, so it was worth doing. But I'll have to, you know, have to learn how to do it. That's what I'll have to do, learn how to do it. Black in here, I know how to fix that. Yeah, I never had, you know, painting wise, it was kind of funny. I've always been really cheap, so I never painted heavy. But I always kind of wanted to, but I just never painted heavy because I was always thinking about how much paint costs. And it's kind of silly. Well, it's not silly, but you know, I had to worry about that shit because there was a time when I didn't have any money at all. It doesn't really look like a neck, Gary. Well, whatever. I'll fix that too. Just drag some hair across it or something. Yeah. That'll help. So now I gotta swiggle some crap into this thing and white and black lines, and that'll fix everything. Yeah. Well, I didn't go anywhere. Oh, come on, man. It's really hard to get paint to come off of this thing. Also drying before I work it. So anyway, back to the subject. Sorry, I was caught up in this crap. So yeah, I'm going to label videos, and so I put this one in two categories. I guess it'll be like a vegetarian category, and maybe there'll be a, I don't like I said, even though I hate that word, maybe I'll create a category that has both anti-natalism and negative utilitarianism, or utilitarianism, and something like, it'll be like something like, there'll be like a, something like, jeez, I'm sounding like soup, a category identifier that's unique, so just something silly, like, you know, VEG with a number after, some kind of whatever, and then anybody who wants to be linked or be part of that argument just has to put that code word in the somewhere in the indexable stream of their video content on whatever site it's on. So theoretically, if you do a Google search, you should be able to come up with that unique identifier in any videos that possess it, and then I'll attempt to put all the videos that are claiming to be related anyway, group them together and link them based on how they interact, whether there's responses and this and that. So something like that anyway. I can't really get any good texture with this thing. Don't like it. Alright. Almost give up time. Put in a little eyeball of some kind here. that works. Do 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 do. Okay, it's almost. Put little pupils in there and see what happens. Ooh, that was a mistake. Ooh, that was a mistake. Who cares? Breaking my tool rule. One tool only. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so I just need to round that up a little. That'll be okay. This red right into this damn yellow. Let's see, blue. That's brownish. Red, some of this dark black here. Brown over it. Alright, let's see, where was I? Where was I? Yeah, sorry, I wasted a lot of your time here. Gotta get better at doing this. Yeah, it's just everything's a waste of time, though. I guess if we're not going to discuss anything that really matters, then there's no point in doing the discussing, right? I mean, there's a certain point where all this philosophy crap really doesn't go anywhere. If all it is about is, well, this is all you need to know to get through life, if that's all it's about is getting through life, and it's not really about describing reality, then what the fuck? I've got really no use for that. I don't need a life strategy. I need a perception that somehow the truth does matter, and that the truth has some hope of winning in the end, because that's all I live for. That's all I truly care about. Is this notion that there needs to be a respect for what's, there's this hugely valuable thing in this world of this suffering and the way we waste it and squander it. And we waste our resources, we waste work, we waste all kinds of discomforts and miseries and sufferings. And, if there's no hope of mitigating against any of that, because human beings are impervious to a logical conversation, too many people are impervious. And, that's pretty dismal. Yeah, that's all that can be said about that. That's all I have to say about that. Or Scumpism. Alright, this is really strange looking. I mean, it's not entirely horrible, but it's pretty horrible. I just need some character. Too many sharp edges. But whatever. Yeah, so the games begin. Well, I mean, they've been going on and 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 on. Just keep going on and on and on. And for nothing, right? That's the part that's just got me down. Just talking to the wind. That's the fucking point of doing that. But there's not much else to do. No other strategy in town. Yeah, that's enough. We shall end this video. Whatever this is, this horrible looking, whatever it is. But anyway, well, it's, first try, whatever. Yeah, I thought I had more to say on this subject, but I didn't take notes. So I think that's all I got for now. But yeah, there's this I think there's a real problem in coming up with any kind of argument that can get out of the logical truth that what we perceive as good is usually the removal. Usually, you know, I would argue it always is. It's just a matter of perception. That's just a negative. It's removal of a negative. You're undoing a condition of dissatisfaction, and that's what you receive pleasure from, is undoing deprivation, a negative state of being created because you lack something. There are no real true positives, and all positive is just an illusion. Yeah, I don't think that can be logically beaten as a truth. So it's just a matter of saying it and proving it and demonstrating it with what I have to say. I mean, I have to just make better arguments. So, I mean, it really is a truth that I really should be able to express in a manner, you know, that's just where people won't attempt. Well, people just won't have a counter argument. That's all. I mean, they can still play word games, you know, around this addiction thing, and come up with ways of trying to describe a pleasure in a context that doesn't have something to do with addiction. But when they're doing that, it's usually a cheat, and it can be shown to be a cheat. I just have to do the work of doing the showing that it's a cheat. You know, that ultimately all the pleasures really are just undoing a negative state of being, and that you have to have a great deal of negative built into you to experience a great deal of positive. That's truly the nature of the positive experience, is building up a need, a grand and spectacular deprivation, and that will bring you a great ecstasy. I mean, losing, you know, 100 wars, and then you finally win one. The victory will be so much sweeter. What comes hard, you know, comes, you know, with a great deal of it's the starving man in the desert thing. You're just going to have more appreciation for the simplest of things. You're going to have a greater capacity, you know, for an moment. Is if you've built up a big, heavy, negative moment. I mean, if you've got a lot of negative built up in your brain, then you're going to be more capable of having that positive experience. I don't like this eye here. So really, things aren't too terrible here, except I'm going to get rid of some of this white without killing this eye. Yeah, that's not your problem. My problem. Put on eyelashes, you know, I mean eyebrows. Might help suck in here a little bit more. A little more dark in there. That eye is still way too. I need to cut some of that out there, but maybe I just put more blue in. Maybe. I don't know. The knife is all crapped up. Oh, that's better. And put a little more eye in more darks in here somewhere. Right in here. Sorry, I'm forgetting. I need to talk. Forgetting I need to talk. I don't think that could happen. Whoa, too much there. But whatever, I'll fix it. I will fix that. Smooth eration. Smooth eration. There we go. Yeah. Down out there. Get this out of here. This actually needs a little more. Whoa, too much there. Whoa, get that out of there. Cool. Whoops. That's probably what it needs too. It's a nostril or something. Alright, I'll just hang in for the nostril and then we get the hell out of here. So there's got to be one right in here somewhere. Got to be. Maybe a little more there. Whoa. It's all fucked up. Booger in this nose here. Alright. That's not a good idea. Let's see, whatever these things are, nose, whatever's. Come on, knife, cooperate. There we go. Alright, come on, I want to get out of here. Alright, so yeah, life sucks. People gotta get used to that. Quit fucking around pretending they're accomplishing something. Fuck. Jeez, you're almost done, Gary. I had to fucking do that. Whatever that is. It wasn't done, but you know what I mean. You're almost sufficient to your cause. Jesus Christ. Just put some whites in there and kill it. Yeah, that would be the way to go. Just put an end on the nose there. Edge over here. Whew, man, that is really fucked up. Nice job, Gary. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, nice job. Really wasn't that bad till I started nosing. Alright. This needs to be cut off, I think. Okay. It's a little better, but it still isn't right. Something's fucked up. It's one of those little things here. Oh, come on. Damn it. Alright. It's close enough. Leave it alone. Come back to it some other day. And close this video out. Can't let it go. I keep playing with it. made another mistake. Yeah. Alright. Utilitarianism. That's right. I mean, you're responsible for the productivity of your life, and your life's not going to be productive if you're causing pain to other sentient creatures. It's just the way it works, fuckers. So you can keep pretending you get a free ride because nature's worse than you are. But the fact that nature's worse than you are doesn't pay the freight, so to speak. Doesn't mean a damn thing. Doesn't gain you any immunity from the harsh judgment of time. So you will be as big an asshole as some asshole you laugh at in the past who was a disgraceful fucking waster of suffering. Well, that's what you are if you don't do anything to fix your life. I'm going to leave this alone. Okay, enough. Alright, so, and then I'll do a background real quick, maybe. Yeah, just real quick. Let's just slap some. Do it with finger paint background. I should just get a little bit of water, and this would go a lot better. Ding, 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 ding. Ooh, blacks. Let's see, black would be better down here. Whoops, big black, a little big color, red and black. Red and blue would be good. If I can get it to be red and blue without all this other crap mixing in. Ooh, there's some red, blue, and white. That might be interesting. Ooh. Don't get in the hair, Gary. Don't get in your hair. Blue. Hey. Alright, where was I? Finish up here, Gary. Too much gray in here. Okay. Some red again. Some red in here. I thought it would all come out purpley, but didn't do that. Alright. There's probably enough fucking around here. Figure out what to do with this later. Alright. Put a shirt on him or something or whatever. I don't know, whatever. I'll worry about that later. More blue in here. Slap on some more red and black and shit over here. Okay. Enough. Well, I better put some down here. Some here, might as well do it. I don't want to pull out these paints again later. Beautiful. Spectacular. Incredible. Beyond comprehension. It's so incredibly incredible. Get some more color in here of some kind. Okay. Surrender. Okay, I'll surrender. That's it. The end. Okay, so till next time. Sorry. Do better. Talking and doing this shit. I will. Just, can't really cut lines in this. It just needs, now the hair needs to break into the background. So I better do that. Whoops. Blob on there. Hell with it. Do that some other time with a brush. Alright. Whoa, that's really horrible. Whoa, cool. Oh, wow. I don't even know if you can see it. Whoa. Looks horrible in the camera. Holy shit, 45 minutes. Well, whatever. You don't care. Till next time. It looks funny. It looks like he's smiling in the camera. Not smiling. Oh, that's cool. Digital zoom. Don't really need that, though. Okay, here we go. End of